Hello and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Michael Bigley. I am the director of the Venable Foundation. I'll be talking today about the foundation's priorities and providing you some general guidance as you think about a future application to the foundation. So let's talk about today's agenda. Again, I'll be providing an overview on the foundation, including our eligibility, priorities, and process. Dive into that a little bit deeper. I'll also be talking about our new changes that our process has undergone this year, started in January 2025. That includes the LOI process. I will take you on a grants portal tour. I have some screenshots for our letter of interest and grant application modules, if you haven't seen those already. And I'll provide some helpful tips and tricks for applying, not just to Venable, but to other foundations in general. And then there's an FAQ section. I'm going to talk about some frequently asked questions that have come to me over my years here at Venable, followed by an audience Q&A about the foundation. So the Venable Foundation was established in 1982 by the Venable Law Firm. It's quite unique for a law firm to have its own foundation, but we were committed and we are committed to providing nonprofit support to nonprofits that are impacting our Venable communities, and we're in 8 major cities. Our first grants were awarded in 1983, so we just celebrated our 40th anniversary just a couple of years ago. The foundation's philanthropic investments complement the firm's other commitments to community, such as volunteerism, pro bono, and other charitable sponsorships that don't fall under the foundation umbrella. The foundation itself is funded annually by the equity partner contributions, so we are not endowed. We are based on the earnings of those equity partners and the percentage that they contribute to the foundation. And we are among the largest law firm foundations in the country, while we are yet a unique entity. The foundation funds strong nonprofits that fit our eligibility criteria through a competitive process. It's not about who you know, it's about what you're doing in the community, what your impact is. Applicant eligibility. This is paramount to be eligible to submit an application or a letter of interest. You must be a 501c3 nonprofit with impact in one of our office locations. You cannot be doing services outside of any of those cities and be eligible. So your focus, you must have programs in one of our cities, and I'll talk about those cities in just a moment. Funding is available for operating support or project support. I'm pleased that we are able to provide operating support. That is often highly regarded and necessary for the nonprofit community, especially in these days. So we do provide operating support. But if you have a project that you would like our name attached to or to help assist funding, we can certainly entertain that. That said, if you are a national or multi-city office or organization, you are eligible to only apply for project support. That needs to be focused on one of our 8 locations. That project could be program support, operating support for one of the cities, but it has to be a proposal geared towards a Venable office location. And our support goes towards organizations that provide direct services with demonstrable impact and engagement in those communities. Some things we don't fund. We don't fund organizations that promote or proselytize on behalf of any religion or that are closely identified with a faith-based organization. So please take note of that. If you are tied to any particular religion, that is not something that we would support. Regardless of the program you're coming to us for. We do not fund individual schools or PTAs, parent-teacher associations. Inevitably, we receive a handful of schools that come to us every application deadline that are purely ineligible. Nationally or internationally focused organizations that don't have a direct impact are not eligible, that we would not fund them. And we don't fund special events or sponsorships, galas, walkathons, things of that sort. That is not a priority for the foundation. So where do we support? Where do we fund? This is clear on our website, but just to reiterate, we have offices in these 8 locations. DC in Northern Virginia, this is our flagship office location. That's where I sit and run the foundation. Please note that Montgomery County and Prince George's County, Maryland are not on this list. We provide support to DC proper and Northern Virginia counties listed here. Baltimore is the home base for Venable. That's where we were founded. So Baltimore City and County are focus areas. We fund in New York City within the 5 boroughs, Los Angeles City and County, San Francisco Bay Area. While that's a wide area, we try to focus our support on San Francisco proper and Oakland. Chicago, specifically within the city, but also extending into Cook County, Miami-Dade, and Denver. Denver is our newest office. So we are just getting started there this year with a small footprint. What do we fund? Funding priorities. These are the 8 buckets that I consider that we look at for our funding to direct our services. These are buckets. They're not prescriptive. Human services, for instance, is a large heading. A lot falls under human services, from work for unhoused individuals, immigration support, domestic violence, food, security programs, the list goes on. So those are large buckets. I'm asking applicants to pick the priority that makes the most sense for them today. So yes, you may be a multifaceted organization. Most of you are, and you would tie into 2, 3, maybe 4 of these funding priorities. Pick the one that's most relevant. What's the core to what you're doing? You have to pick one. There is no quota. It is really just a way for us to classify where our funding is going at a given time. And I'll direct you to the image on the right, which is our annual report that was released just a couple of weeks ago. That provides some thorough overview of the types of organizations we're supporting. I highly recommend you take a look at that. It is predominantly placed on our website. Directly from the annual report, you can see how our giving was dispersed last year, all the way from human services, which received the lion's share, all the way down to environment. Some of this is due to the large bucket nature of the work, and some of it's also due to not receiving many applicants in a given funding priority. For instance, we receive many applicants for after-school programs. So education, youth impact, that tends to be middle of the road. But it also tends to be pretty saturated in terms of the demand. There's a lot of youth-serving organizations come to us, and we have to be conscious of all of our funding priorities, not just one particular one. We try to divvy it out as equitably as possible. And below that, you see our giving by community, and this is the number of organizations funded in each city. DC is our largest office. We have the largest budget because that's the largest office and the largest number of attorneys contributing to the foundation. So we have more grants going out in DC, with Baltimore being a close second. Denver last year was a brand new city for us, and the foundation was not even publicly open for Denver grants. And this was a particularly an attorney-directed grant in Denver. This year, we have officially launched in Denver, so I'm anticipating more grant awards in that city. So the ranking goes due to the level of budget that we have. And you can see that some of the cities don't have many grants, and that's because of our limited budgets. New process features. So as I mentioned, there are some changes that we instituted this year. So if you are a recent grantee, if you've been funded within the past 2 years, or if you've been invited to apply, a full application is required. This is no change. And you will be able to submit that full application for consideration by the application deadline. Everybody else, if you have never been supported by us, or at least not within the past 2 years, you must submit a letter of interest, an LOI. That LOI is reviewed on a rolling basis. You can submit it at any time. It is a brief paragraph talking about your programs and your impact. You're selling yourself with 300 words. If you get an approved LOI, you are approved to submit a full proposal, but for an upcoming application deadline. Declined LOIs must wait 12 months from your submission date to resubmit an LOI. You just can't keep submitting an LOI month after month after month. You have to wait 12 months. Our process is competitive. It is highly competitive and open. Last year, we funded around 35 to 37% of our applicants that came in the door. So there's a healthy number that's being funded, but we received over 1,000 applications that came in last year, and that's full application. We have 3 application deadlines per year, February 1st, June 1st, and September 1st. That said, if it falls on a holiday or a weekend, we fast forward that deadline to the next business day. So for instance, September 1st happens to be Labor Day, and I am not in the office on Labor Day. I will be in the office the day after. And so September 2nd is the application deadline. So please take note, you get an extra day when there's a weekend or a holiday on that deadline. It is essential, no matter which you are submitting, whether it's an LOI or a full proposal, it is essential for you to make your case for support. What are you doing in the community? How are you creating impact? The number of people served. You would be surprised how many people forget to include those data points. It seems very elementary to say, but it is a fact that oftentimes you have to dig as a reader to figure out what exactly is happening in the community. So make sure that is evident regardless of what process you're taking. Ultimately, the question about access and opportunity needs to be answered. How are you providing access and opening doors to people given what your particular expertise is in the community? All applications are reviewed internally and vetted to ensure you align with our funding priorities and that we have available budgets and that it really fits a deficit area for us. Funding recommendations are referred to the local committee of Venable attorneys in each city to either approve or deny those requests. And so for instance, if you are a New York City-based organization, you're being reviewed by the New York City Committee. If you're a DC-based organization, you're being reviewed by the DC Committee, and so on. People that live, work, and breathe in those communities and know the issues. I'm going to take you through a series of screenshots to show you the different steps of the proposal and registration process. So if you've already gone through this, excellent. Hopefully this verifies what you've already encountered. So you see the website at the top, venable.smartsimple.com. That is directly linked from our website. So you can go to the Venable Foundation website where you went to register for today's webinar, and you can have a direct link to this under the Apply Now button. Once you register as a new user, you will be given an opportunity to select one of 2 options here. So you have an organization registration or an affiliate organization. This is important. Organizations, if you are a standalone nonprofit, you click that first option. No muss, no fuss. If you are an organization that is sharing an EIN, you are working with a fiscal host, or you're sharing the tax ID number with a parent organization, like that is a broad national that has chapters or affiliates. If you're sharing that, you must use the affiliate organization registration. That affiliate registration allows you to create a record separate from anyone else that might be using that same EIN, that same tax ID number. That does not allow them to override your information, because if you were to use a shared EIN under the organization registration, anyone that comes in and registers after you would override the data that is in the organization profile. So make sure you pick the affiliate organization registration if you are sharing an EIN with anybody else, with any other entity. Once you pick that selection, you will be searching for that organization. So there's a lot of angst with this page at times because people receive error messages. And that is because you are not following the directions. 100% of the time, you are not following the directions. My recommendation, you see that blue arrow? Pick the EIN to search by. And you need to only use one of these searchable criteria. So don't do the name, don't do the address, do the EIN. And that is no dash, no space, as it says up there in the instructions. And you will find your EIN. You will find your organization and can move forward. If you have an error here, It might be because you have that dash or space, or you have other items in the fields below you. The only other option, only other reason you would have a problem is if you are a brand new nonprofit and the IRS has not updated their nonprofit database, because this links directly to that. So at that point, you would have to wait until the IRS database is up to date before you apply. You need to be able to have a searchable, findable organization through this search function. Once you're fully registered, you log back in. This is the dashboard. This is the main page that you will come to each time you go to search for your application or to start an application. So on the left side, there's your profiles, your own profile, as well as the organization profile. This is where you change the address. This is where you keep things up to date. On the right side is a reminder of the timelines, the deadline when it changes for a holiday or a weekend. And then there's the Apply Now button, which is what you will click to initiate an LOI or a full application. At the bottom of the page is your My Applications. And each of those headings, as you see at the very bottom, draft, submitted, sent back, and so on, those are the status points for your work. So as you have started an application, it will create a draft that will be, as you see in the parentheses, the 1 at the bottom of your page. You click that in order to see that draft. If you have 3 drafts, it'll be a 3. And then as so on, as you see, as your draft goes through the process, if you submit it, it will be under the submitted column. If it's put under review after the submission, then it'll be under that column, and so on. Once a decision is made, it'll be under either approved or denied. I see people that start multiple drafts. I assume that is because they can't find their draft, and this is how you find your draft at the bottom of the page. So assuming you click Apply Now, you'll be going through an eligibility quiz. And this is the point-in-time quiz to make sure that everything fits appropriately. You know, are you 501c3? Are you doing programs in one of those cities? And so on. I want to draw your attention to the last question. Have you been funded by Venable within the past 2 years, or have you been invited to apply by the foundation staff? This is where you will see that you saw that language earlier. This is the determination of whether you go to an LOI, a letter of interest, or a full application. So if you click no, you have not been invited, or you've not received funding, and you move forward with the quiz, you will go to the LOI page. If you click yes, that means you've been funded, you're a past grantee, or you've been invited, and voila, you can go to the full application. So please answer that truthfully. It will take you to the right place. Assuming you click no, you haven't been funded before, the LOI landing page, it is quite simple. So I encourage you not to overthink it and to read the directions and follow through accordingly. You only have to do 2 things. Click the city that your focus is on, and then type the letter of interest that is an open space up to 300 words. Make the most of this space. There are plenty of LOIs I receive that only submit 3 sentences, maybe less than 100 words. That is not enough information to truly give any sort of impact. There are plenty of LOIs that fill me with quotes and maybe don't include numbers. And that does not bode well. So make the most of this. Use it as, in some ways, an executive summary. Give an overview of your work. Provide a sense of what you might be coming to Venable Foundation for if invited for a full proposal. And as the reminders say here in the letter of interest instructions, describe your impact and the number of people served. Describe your engagement in the community. Those are key points for us. And if you can't convey that in 300 words, you will not be accepted. So LOI frequently asked questions. When should you submit this LOI? Whenever you are ready. Whenever you feel that you are able to articulate in 300 words or less the impact of your work, the engagement, the number of people served. Keep in mind that this is a rolling deadline. So you want to get this LOI in as soon as you can so that It is time, ample time to be reviewed, and then to get that decision, and then you have time to create an application if you are invited to apply. So keep that in mind. There is no deadline for the LOI. It is it's your wait point for submitting and waiting to see if you will be invited to apply. May you schedule a meeting to discuss the LOI? Unfortunately, no. I am a staff of one running the big picture and small picture for the foundation. So make sure that you are attending today, which is a great step, and make sure you review the instructions and submit that LOI, and hopefully there is a positive result for you. With only 300 words allowed, what information should you include? Again, I draw you back to the information that was discussed a moment ago and the instructions in the LOI form. Make sure you're providing a clear sense and a concise way of your impact and engagement. Give a sense of the programs that you're providing. What is your unique angle in the community? Essentially, why should Venable move forward with you? How long until you have that decision on the LOI? Because it's rolling, I am not sitting there waiting for them to come in on a daily basis, and it kind of ebbs and flows. As we get closer to an application deadline, those LOIs are being reviewed quicker and quicker. It may be reviewed within the week, may be reviewed within the day. It could be a very quick turnaround. If you are submitting the week before an application deadline, it may or may not be reviewed in time because there may be a lot in the hopper. So there will be every attempt to review these. But if you're submitting the day before, there's not a whole lot of urgency to review that LOI because if it's approved, assuming you want to apply for the next deadline, you have no time to get that full application ready. So submit this with enough time before an application deadline, assuming that if you get approved, you have time to complete that application. That said, to the next point, you do not need to apply for the next application deadline if you get accepted. So if your LOI is accepted, you can wait till next year. You can wait for that application and go forward with that. You don't need to apply immediately if that LOI is approved. So if you get that LOI approval tomorrow and our application deadline is in a week and a half, you can choose to apply or you can choose to wait. If you're declined, may you get that feedback. Unfortunately, I'm not able to provide pre-proposal consultations and I'm not able to provide post-LOI or application feedback sessions. The main application. So if you are a past grantee, nothing has changed. If you are new to us and the LOI was accepted, this is the main application landing page. And at the top, you'll see there are 5 headings. Organization information, which asks if you have a contact, if you're affiliated with us in any way. That's not required to have a contact. You can answer no, and that is not a ding by any means. It is purely a point of reference for us. There's the financial snapshot section, which is a lot of uploads from your accounting software, budget versus actuals, donor lists, things of that sort. Primary contact information is usually auto-populated from the main account holder here. Request information, that is where you'll spend the most time. It includes an executive summary as well as the full proposal, and those are just open sections for you to make your case. For anyone that's a past grantee, this is a section that will also have availability for your final report to include that. And then there's the attachments, which are optional, that is not required. Many proposals do not include them, where you could attach 1 or 2 pieces of collateral that might reinforce the impact of your work. That was the application. So now some helpful tips and tricks. Apply when makes the most sense for your fiscal year and when you can make the most compelling case. Don't rush the application. You only get 1 chance per calendar year. So apply when you feel you are ready. And If funded, because it is a 4-month process from deadline to decision, thinking about when that funding would come through, if funded, that would make the most sense. We have those 3 deadlines per year. Project versus operating support, I touched on this slightly before. You are welcome to apply for either. Operating is certainly something that I'm proud that the foundation is able to do. So 9 times out of 10, this is the option organizations go with. But you're welcome to come to us for a project as well. There's no need to put fancy language to make an operating support request. Just call it an operating support request. But if you are a national organization, as I said, or multi-city, you would have to come to us for a project. In the proposal itself, and even in the LOI, but more so for the proposal because there's more text allowed there. Get to the point. Don't bury the lead. Catch me or anyone else who is reading that proposal. Catch them early. Give a sense of what you're doing in the community and give the reader a reason to read more. Dig into the essential points at the beginning and you can elaborate later on. There's no need to fill your proposal with dense research or quotes. You can provide little tidbits here or there, but really what we're concerned about is what are you doing? Put that out there. Be sure to detail that depth and breadth and impact of your activities, again, including those key data points, which are sometimes skipped over, ironically enough. Identify what sets you apart from other organizations, especially organizations that might be in your same field. Why is your work important? Take a look at who else we're funding in your particular city in the annual report. How is your work complementary, different, a value added to what we're already supporting? Keep that proposal length in mind. The narrative section of the application itself is an open-ended, no character count, no character limit. So you are welcome to make that case. That said, there's no reason for it to be a 10-page proposal. Typically, proposal narratives are around 2 or so pages of text. It is not a hard and fast rule, but the best proposals are around 2 pages. So keep that in mind. And then just a general nuts and bolts. As you are registering and working through an application, only one staff member, only one account can own that application record. So if you're looking to share that record with other development team members or other leadership, they would have to either log in under your account or you would have to be using a generic email address that everybody would be able to log into. Only one owner per application. So some FAQs, and we're getting to the point where you all will be able to, I'll start answering some of those questions. I see some of them are already coming in, but if you don't see a question here that you have in the back of your mind, please feel free to start populating those into the Q&A section on the webinar. What is the average grant size? Our average grant size is just shy of $10,000. So we're not providing massive grants. If you're coming to us and thinking that we're going to fund your full operating budget or $150,000, that is a guaranteed no, because we just don't have those dollars available. In some cities, that may be our full budget for the year. So our average grant size is around $10,000. That said, if you are brand new to us, if you've never been funded by the Venable Foundation, we almost always start our grants around $5,000. Sometimes lower, but usually $5,000 is a good starting point. And sometimes we're not able to elevate that over time if we provide continuous support. It is a challenge. We've taken the approach of breadth over depth, and we've been funding a lot of organizations. So sometimes it does become a challenge to progressively provide increases to our grantees. Would we rather support project or operating support? We're a little indifferent, to be honest. The one clarifier here is, well, there's 2 things. Certainly ask for what you need. So most people need that operating flexible support. But if you are a mega $1 million budget organization, hospitals, other, higher learning institutions or what have you, it would make sense to come to us for a project that we could actually see where our small dollars could make an impact. So a project-based request for a large entity. And before someone asks, there is not a set rule in terms of what budget size would require that. But if you feel that a $5,000 request might get lost as seen as a drop in the bucket for your operating fund, then maybe a project request is more appropriate. It's really something that you need to suss out. You've been declined several times in a row by us. Should you reapply or submit a letter of interest? It really comes down to your own time and if you feel that it is worth moving forward. Is something different this year so that in past years you've been declined, but there's something more compelling this year? It might be worth reapplying. That said, if you've been declined multiple years in a row, it just might not be a good fit. We might not have the capacity to take you on given the limits of our budgets in that particular office. So something to consider that we might not be able to move forward. You as an organization have multiple projects in multiple Venable locations. May you apply for all cities in the Venable Foundation portfolio. I recommend picking one city, especially if you're new to us. See how that fares, and then we could have a conversation if it makes sense for you to approach us for different chapters, different cities within the Venable portfolio. Would you have success in one city over another? It's really a challenge to think about that because budget size vary. For instance, Denver is a very small city for the foundation. We will probably be awarding around $35,000 this year in Venable or in Denver. So but it is a brand new market for us. So the world is our oyster in Denver in terms of the applicants coming in the door, but the dollars are limited. Miami, Chicago are newer cities for us as well. So the market is a bit more open. DC, we have a larger budget, but there is definitely more demand. There's more proposals coming in for DC. So every city has seen an increase in proposals in the recent years, and it has stretched the budget. So while we want to do our best to honor everything that comes in, sometimes it does come to available funds. Sometimes it's not you, it's us. Are certain funding priorities more competitive than others? Legal services in some of our cities is pretty competitive because we are funding quite a bit already. And so wondering, can we take on another? Does it make sense for us to take on another given all that we're already supporting? After school programs, highly competitive. If you are an after school program working in one or two schools, the chances of you getting funded are very small. It is a challenging environment because we are funding many youth-serving nonprofits, and seeing what is different from what we are already supporting can be a challenge. May you apply using a fiscal host? Yes, that is the affiliate organization registration. You are sharing that EIN, so make sure you are registering appropriately. New nonprofits, may you apply? As long as you can accurately register in the grants portal, you are welcome to apply. That said, are you competitive is another question. And to be competitive, you need to have a solid track record. You need to be able to show that you have programs that have been happening, you have partnerships or whatever it might be. You have some evidence to show for your work. If you have an idea, but no program execution, the chances of you being funded are very minimal. How many new grantees do we take on each year? It is in the single-digit percentage points in terms of the number of new grants that we award. Last year, I believe our new grantees were around 8 or 9%. And this year, I imagine that number to be less. So it is highly competitive. We do like to fund organizations on a year-to-year basis if we have a partnership and try to keep going with that. There is wiggle room, but it is highly competitive. And in some of our cities, we may not be able to even take on a new project over the course of 3 deadlines. It is unclear until we actually suss out the proposals and the budgets and what comes in, especially given that this is our last application deadline of the year for the September 2nd deadline. But it is important for us to entertain everything, but it is a challenge to bring on new grants. Do you need an attorney connection to be successful and to apply? Absolutely not. Roughly about half of our grantees last year had a connection to an attorney. So that could have been someone that was on the board, volunteer, maybe a family connection or what have you, something tangentially used to introduce them to us. Our focus is on impact. It is not necessarily on connection. How much information should you include in your proposal? As I told you, 2 pages of narrative text. Really make sure you convey the point. Have someone read your proposal that is not tied to your organization to make sure that they understand what you're doing. Because if they don't, that probably means that the reader will not as well. If it hits my desk and I leave my head scratching, how can I advocate for your proposal if it's not clear and concise and understandable? And then when will you know the decision on your application? Again, it is a 4-month process from deadline to decision. So a September deadline will give you a decision just before the end of the calendar year in mid-December. So you can think about that for the other deadlines as well. It is about 4 months from deadline to decision. Just want to direct you to the venable.com/foundation page. Our annual report is there. Hopefully that gives you a good overview of our work. Most of the information today is pretty available on the website. It's really me elaborating on the content here, and hopefully it provided you some helpful insights.